Paul, when did you become interested in aviation?
Always. My father was in the RAF. He flew Meteors and Vampires, and he had such wonderful stories to tell. And he had a friend who had a Cessna, a little Cessna, and I think I got my first flight in that when I was 5. And ever since then, I always wanted to fly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So why did you want to join the Navy?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
What happened was, when I was 13, I had my first flying lesson, which was like a birthday present. And then between 13 and 17, I used to do odd jobs. I used to clean aircraft down at the airport, whatever I could, get money together and get the odd flying lesson here and there. So when I turned 17, I was able on a Piper Cherokee to go first solo.
Oh, nice.
And I did that, and I then got a flying scholarship from the Air Force. And they paid for me to go to Cardiff and get another 30 hours, and that got me my private pilot's license, which I had before I got my driving license, which, yeah, surprised people. When I was in my last year of sixth form, I applied to join the RAF, went through their selection process. I failed the medical, because my arms were too short, by about ½ an inch. And there's a story on that later on. So I was quite devastated by that. I'd applied for British Airways at the same time. I got through their selection process to go to Hamble and be taught to be an airline pilot, but they folded it before I got there. So that didn't happen. And then quite late on in the last year at school, the Royal Navy presentation team turned up with the Wessex, and they did a roll demonstration, which included winching somebody out of a lifeboat on the ground. I thought, oh, my life after I thought, oh yeah, I could do that. So I went through the Navy selection process for air crew, and for the medical, they didn't check my arm length. And so I was passed, and then September 78, I walked through the gates of Dartmouth. That started my Navy career. So I had about 6 months at Dartmouth doing officer training. It also included about 4 weeks at Plymouth Airport, Roborough, flying the Chipmunk. Went solo in that as well. And then after that, went up to Leeming. Did about 5 months on the Bulldog, elementary flying training. Absolutely loved it. And then a bit more officer training, and then we were then, I think all of us, bar about 1 or 2, all went onto the Gazelle down at Culdrose. Again, another little sports car, that was fun. And after that, it was a case of we put our bids in of what we wanted to do frontline. The choice was small ships flight, which was Wasp and then Lynx, anti-submarine seeking, or fly the Wessex in support of the Royal Marines out of Yeovilton. I chose the Wessex, and I was very lucky 3 of us got that. And that's how I ended up flying the Wessex for the first time with 846 Squadron at Yeovilton.
Yeah, so what were your first thoughts on the Wessex?
As I arrived in my car at Yeovilton, driving past the Fleet Air Arm Museum there, what was sitting out the front as the gate guard, but a Wessex. And I thought, here I am to do my advanced and operational flying training on an aircraft that's already obsolete and in a museum. But yeah, I mean, the advanced flying training was brilliant, learning how to operate a bigger helicopter, twin engines, crew management, that sort of thing. And the operational training was a hoot, because we had 5 Royal Marines with us, which was my first encounter, proper encounter with Royal Marines. And they're a great bunch. Real work hard, play hard. We had some great times. The training was fantastic fun. And yeah, I ended up with 846, initially on the Wessex, and then we re-equipped with the Sea King Commando.
Yeah. So what was the role of the Wessex when you joined?
It was in support of the Royal Marines, was its primary task. A secondary task was to go on board a ship and do what they called helicopter delivery service, HDS, and search and rescue. So my first ship was HMS Bulwark, which was laid down during the war as an aircraft carrier. Initially it was flying things like scimitars, I think.
Oh, right.
It had an angled flight deck, but then they re-rolled it to become a helicopter assault ship for the Royal Marines. And so we would have detachments on there. Initially, I was part of a 2-ship flight, 2 Wessex, and our job was to be almost like a runabout, I guess, for the captain at times, but also to do the replenishment at sea, where the Royal Fleet Auxiliary would come along with essential kit like tinnies of beer and chips, lots of chips, and all the other goodies, and the mail, of course, which was crucial. And we would do underslung loads for that. We'd provide any search and rescue cover. And that was generally it. And that was my first experience of life at sea and with the Royal Navy, which was great. We had a US Marine Corps flight commander who was on exchange with us, and he was great. Yeah, that was really good fun, which included 2 long spells ashore at Gibraltar. We were supposed to go to America, but sadly, defence cuts stopped that.
Oh.
The other thing we did with the Wessex was we went up to Bardufoss, northern Norway, where we did Arctic training, because the Royal Marines also had the responsibility for Arctic warfare. And so we did about four weeks or so, 6 weeks, learning how to fly in Norway in the dark, because we used to have sort of dawn was sort of 10 o'clock, dusk was 2 o'clock, and nothing in between. I think one day we took the helicopter up to about 6,000–7,000 feet to see if we could see the sun, but nah, it wasn't there. Part of it as well, of course, was doing survival training, where basically we got dumped just on the tree line and told that the instructors would be back in 3 days to see if we were still alive.
What? Seriously?
So we only had the kit that we would have had on board the aeroplane. So we had basic survival kit, which included stuff to chop down small trees and things. We made what we called a basher, which was a lean-to, which you then put vegetation on the top. And then you built a fire there with a reflector screen with logs there, which kept you nice and warm. But the problem was, yes, we had lots of water because we could melt the water, but food-wise, there wasn't very much in the survival pack. And when we started off on the first day, chopping these things down and building the shelter, we had loads of energy. But of course, you use so much extra energy in the cold, about -20 when we were doing this. And yeah, come day 3, when we'd survived, we didn't have the energy to take it down, basically. We had to sort of kick it down and get the instructors to help us. It was good. Luckily, never had to do it for real.
Yeah.
But
so like, obviously you said 3 days there. What would you be doing in them 3 days? Just sitting
bored.
about?
Well,
Yeah.
what you get taught about with survival is the first thing is location. Build a beacon so you can light a fire, whatever, somebody can find you. And then protection. So you build something to shelter you from the wind and hopefully the cold. And you then start looking at the other things like drink, food, but also boredom. And people, yeah, you make silly games up or whatever just to kill some of the time. I mean, it was fascinating from a nature point of view being there, of course. But yeah, there weren't any rabbits to catch or anything like that.
Yeah. So what were the strengths and weaknesses of the Wessex?
The Wessex was, yeah, I mean, it was going out of service, it was being replaced. It didn't have any navigation aids. It had a stabilisation system, which was handy, and it had reasonable computers to fuel control the engines. So once you had them in computer control, it did it for you as you move the collective lever up and down, which is like our throttle in a helicopter. It was fun to fly. It was very manoeuvrable. It was very forgiving. So for a first tourist pilot, it was a great aircraft to have. It took a lot of punishment, and there was no limits on angular bank, stuff like that. And the undercarriage was brilliant for going on a ship. You could just throw it down and it would stay. So it was a fantastic aircraft that way. It was, of course, by modern standards then, couldn't lift enough.
Yeah.
And it only had really a 2-hour flight time on a full tank of gas. The Sea King Mark IV that came in, which I went on to about a year and a bit after doing frontline Wessex. It took me 2 years from training to get frontline, which was brilliant in those days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so just after a year of being on the Wessex, the Sea King Mark IV we fully equipped with. I was one of the last pilots to go because I was one of the last ones to join. And the Sea King Mark IV, the story goes, I don't know if it's true or not, but the Egyptians had ordered the Sea King Commando, which was a state-of-the-art at the time helicopter. At the same time as well, the Royal Marines had taken delivery of the light gun to replace the old 25-pounder, I think it was.
Right.
The trouble with the light gun was it was too heavy for the Wessex to lift. So the Royal Navy went to the government and said, we need a new helicopter because we can't lift a new gun. And at the same time, the Egyptians decided they didn't want these Sea Kings anyway, that were being built down at Westlands in Yeovil. and we're going to go bust. So the government did the deal. Tell you what, we'll replace your Wessex helicopters with these brand new Sea Kings. Nice. Fantastic. The other funny bit was, because it was being ordered by the Egyptians, it had a full, well, just about an airways fit on it, all the gadgets. The Navy didn't understand these things in helicopters. The Navy said to Westlands, take it all out, we don't need it. And Westlands said, yeah, sure, but it will cost you money to take it out. Yeah. So that's how we ended up with a really good avionics fit in the navigation fit in the Sea King 4, which was basically a Super Wessex as far as we were concerned, and we treated it that way, which might not have been a good idea. But it was quite a difference in generation.
Yeah, what was it like transferring onto the Sea King? Did it feel like a leap forward, like in terms of like handling and capabilities?
Yeah, it was very, very different. Another thing, because we were going from being a Wessex squadron, which was single pilot, to the Sea King, which was designed to be twin pilots, we didn't have enough pilots.
Oh, really?
So there was a fudge done whereby we were cleared to fly single pilot for non-hazardous flights, providing the crewman was trained to use the manual throttles. Right. Because if we had a computer freeze, unlike the Wessex, we could actually had a lever to take the engines into manual control. So if we'd had one of those, and I did have one once, the crewman came forward and then operated the manual throttle on the engine that was frozen.
Really?
Yeah.
So how much training did they get then for that? Like,
the crewman?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I never did it, so I can't tell. But it's not rocket science. I think they went down to the simulator and played in the simulator for a bit. And then occasionally we let them play with it on the real aeroplane after they were trained. And they were good. They were really good. I mean, the crewmen were all fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. But the Sea King 4, it was basically like a big transit van, Ford Transit. Unlike the yellow one behind me, it had fixed undercarriage rather than the retractable one. Didn't have the sponsons. It also didn't have the radar down the back or any of the extra kit. So it was literally just a big empty van down the back. So we could lift, 20 troops was not difficult. I think we did 16 Arctic equipped troops, whereas the Wessex was sort of 6. So the capability was great. And we could lift the light gun, no problem at all.
That's the main thing. But, what was it like working with the Royal Marines?
Oh, it was great fun. They are a really nice bunch. And the best people to go for a night on the town with. You always felt safe. But yeah, I've total respect for them. I mean, what they did in the Arctic was just awesome. How they lived and then to fight as well. Brilliant.
So do you have any memorable stories from your time with the Royal Navy on the Wessex and the Sea King?
Well, it was the first time I got into big trouble.
Okay.
Not too long after coming back from the Arctic exercise in the Easter, I went on an exercise called Fiery Cross, which was one Wessex. I went with our Australian exchange pilot, who was the experienced guy, and I was still really learning my trade. And Fiery Cross was with 148 Battery, which are part of 29 Squadron, which is the commando gunners. And 148 were the naval gunfire support guys who would go ashore, perhaps behind the enemy lines, then call in the guns from the Royal Navy ships. So they did an escape and evasion exercise regularly, and this one started up at Cape Wrath, right at the top end of Scotland, and worked its way down basically the west coast of Scotland. We had a lovely time. It was really good. It was fun, saw places I'd never seen before. The other pilot, Ron, was great. We used to take turns flying it, so I was getting a lot of good experience and working with troops. And for the last flight, the guy running the exercise says, right, what we want you to do now is to go down to Faslane and drop people off at the battle camp there. And I had a look. He said, are you sure about Faslane? He said, yeah, no problem at all. There's a helicopter landing site there, and we'll be there to meet them. This was the instructors, and we'll take them away for their interrogation and stuff. Oh, fine. And you've cleared it with Faslane? Yeah, no problem at all. So on a Sunday morning, I picked up this stick of naval gunfire support spotters, flew down from, it must have been about the Oban area, went towards Faslane, turned in. I'd looked up on the helicopter landing site booklet we had, and it had, yep, that's the Faslane helicopter landing site. So a Sunday morning, I came in, and we were playing operational conditions. So I came in really fast, did a fast stop, selling the Wessex on its tail in flight to stop it quickly, then put it on the ground quickly, and then these Royal Marines rushed out with their weapons, forming the protective cordon around the helicopter. I pulled in lots of power to get airborne and get away, and as I went, I could see these MOD policemen talking frantically into their radios. What's going on? We've been invaded, we've been attacked.
What?
Yeah. What I hadn't been told was, or perhaps I'd misunderstood, you've got Faz Lane, the nuclear submarine base, and just up on the hill and not too far away, it is a battle camp. And that was where I was supposed to take them. But in the misunderstanding, I'd actually taken them into the very sensitive nuclear submarine base. And it seems by the time I landed again, the local admiral had been woken up and was shouting down the phone. And I was very, very lucky I had an Australian laid-back flight commander who then explained everything and said lots of sorries, yes sir, no sirs, on my behalf. I didn't actually get to speak or have to stand in my best uniform in front of a desk somewhere.
Yeah.
The Aussie diffused it for me. Lots of respect for Aussies.
Yeah, there you go. One question I did get of a viewer, why was the Sea King in the Royal Navy called the Jungly or the Jungly?
Ah, right, okay.
Because that's interesting. I don't
History.
even know this.
It goes back to when we had things like the Borneo and Malaya emergencies of the 70s.
Right.
And it was Wessex aircraft out there. And they used to support the troops who were very much on active service there, flying them in and out of jungle clearings, stuff like that. And they would, they would forward base into the jungle as well. So that stood, and the test of time always called Junglies after that, as opposed to the Navy anti-submarine guys who were pingers.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, even though the 845, which is our sister squadron, was still all Wessex when I was there. And they used to staff the detachment out in Northern Ireland, supporting out there. We were the Arctic squadron. So we were the Arctic squadron and we were called Junglies. There you go.
A bit of history there, that's brilliant. But I have to ask, what was it like landing and taking off from a carrier? Did you enjoy it or was it a bit hairy at times?
A carrier like Bulwark was dead easy. I mean, it was quite stable. What was interesting was if you were coming back in bad weather, in cloud or fog, which is quite normal, you did a ship-controlled approach. So basically you had someone who was an air traffic controller in effect, and he would see us on, he had a search radar rather than a precision radar, and he would give us directions to approach the stern of the ship, descending our height at appropriate times, and then he would get us down so that we would intercept the wake. So you'd have the ship going up, there'd be the big wake from the ship, and we would come in at an angle, and what they would be doing is on the ship, they'd be chucking flares into the wake.
Oh, right.
And as we approach that, we'd see the flares, we'd pick up the wake, we would then hover taxi along behind the ship with the wake, and then we'd look up, see the flight deck and bulwark, and then just pull up and land on and back. So that was fine. Even a ship like that could move around a lot, and that was more interesting, and you used to have to pick your times. We'd try and land midships next to the island because that was the least movement of the ship. I landed on a couple of RFAs that were moving a lot, and yeah, you just had to pick your time. Usually it's like a 1 in 7 rule.
Okay.
Every 1 in 7 big waves, you'll get a smaller one.
Okay, right. So.
And then you wait for like the 6th big wave and start moving across. It then goes slightly stable, and then you then plonk it on. With Wessex, you just chucked it on. So it could take it. You had to be more careful with the seeking, particularly if you went sideways, because you could take the undercarriage off.
Oh wow, yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, we didn't have the fancy gadget of the Lynx with its harpoon, which used to shoot, shoot down and grab the grid. We didn't have that. No.
And when you were with the Wessex and the Sea King with the Royal Navy, did you work with any other navies, like even Americans or anything? Did you mix with those guys?
Yeah.
What was that like?
I'm going to be careful what I say now. The Americans were different.
Okay.
They were far more procedure-based rather than cuff it, if you like.
Yep.
The Royal Navy always had this thing about the Air Force as well, that we were more get the job done rather than going by rules and regulations, and the Americans even more so. But they were lovely guys, all lovely guys. So we had an American exchange US Marine Corps guy with us, which was really nice. We also worked with the Dutch Marines. The Dutch Marines were also part of the NATO commitment for the Arctic, surprisingly, and in the mountains, so that was a novelty for them. But they were great, and I did one detachment with them up in Norway, and we had a breakfast with them. And one morning, went into breakfast, got my bread, made it into toast, thought there's the jam, I'll put the jam on. And it was chili. It was chili paste or something, and it blew my head off. And I can't, why are you having that for breakfast? It was, you know,
Get the blood going.
And it was also strange because they had long hair and earrings, which of course...
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, big no-no for us.
No. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So overall, did you enjoy your time in the Royal Navy?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was, the frontline Navy, which was Wessex Seeking. I did about 3 years, I guess, on that. And it was great. As a single guy, young, free and single, going away a lot. I didn't get to do the fun bits like America or anything like that, but I did get around quite a bit in Europe and Salisbury Plain and places like that. Otterburn, spent a lot of time up there. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. But as I got to the end of that, asked what I'd like to do next. I said, well, can we go instructing on a bulldog? And we said, yeah, something completely different. Let's go and do something completely different. So that's what I did. I went to RAF Leeming and did my instructor's course there, along with some other Navy pilots and RAF pilots. And I was then appointed to the Royal Navy Elementary Flying Training Squadron, which operated out of Topcliffe, which was an army base, but we retained, or the Air Force retained the airfield, basically. And we flew and did the elementary flying training on pilots there. The squadron was half Royal Navy, half Royal Air Force, and that was a good mix. That was really good.
The banter was mint.
Oh, the banter was fantastic. And also, when I went there, you had some real old and bolds on the Air Force side. You know, one of them said he flew flying boats out of Hong Kong for his first tour, you know. So yeah, had a great range. So you had the older guys with experience, and you had the younger guys like me coming off a first tour to give a bit of the, as we used to call it, the dash, panache and joie de vivre of the flying game, bit of fun as well. And that was a good tour. That was really enjoyable. And what happened was, when I was just coming to the end of my time on 846 at Yeovilton, I was doing a flat share with another guy from the Royal Navy and a teacher, and she worked at a local school. And one evening, she brought the new teacher around to, because she didn't know anybody in Yeovil, and she became my future wife.
Wow.
So, that was another good reason to go up to and have a shore tour up in Yorkshire, because we got married, and then about a year later, the first daughter came along. And then when I was coming towards sort of the end of my tour on the Bulldogs, the Navy said, well, your next tour is back to Yeovilton, back to a Jungly Squadron, which would be goodbye for 8 months of the year or so. I thought, nah, time to go. So luckily I was on a short career commission, which was 12 years, but it had an 8-year break point, so I took that. And that's why I left the Navy.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't like it, it was because of domestics.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get on to why you moved to the RAF, it was really interesting. You went on to become a part of John Lewis. Can you tell us about that? That was really, I'd never seen that coming.
Well, I joined the Navy right from school. So I'd never known anything else other than washing aeroplanes or just doing odd jobs. Potato picking, something else I did. That was horrible. I thought, I'm never going to work in agriculture again. So I thought, I need to do something completely different. And my wife and her family from Liverpool always raved about George Henry Lee's, and I used to get dragged around there and all the rest of it, and they seemed a really nice organisation. There was a big military presence there, ex-military, a lot of them. So I thought, I'll give them a go. And I got interviewed by an ex-submarine commander, I think it was, who was their head of recruitment. And I'm not saying there was an old boys club, but they gave me a job anyway. And I went in as a trainee manager at Peterborough, at the store there. Meanwhile, the Royal Air Force was short of instructors for Bulldogs at the University Air Squadrons. So I actually did 5 days a week with John Lewis as a trainee manager, and I was doing 1 day a week as an instructor on Cambridge University Air Squadron, which was Bulldogs, with the undergraduates there, learning about the Air Force and some joining up afterwards. And I ended up thoroughly enjoying my 1 day a week with University Air Squadron, far more than John Lewis. I mean, John Lewis were lovely, but it just didn't click with me. Yeah. I don't think I clicked with them as well. I wasn't the right sort of temperament. Yeah. And so whilst I've been doing this, about 9 months on the UAS, again, thoroughly enjoying it. I did the summer camp as well when we went to up to Southport. Wow, that was fun. Southport with university students. Oh no, it was Abingdon. That was it. We delivered the aircraft to Southport at the end, but we went to Abingdon, yeah, and that was, I had a couple of weeks down in Abingdon with the university students, which was a great laugh, great hoot. I thought, I'm really enjoying myself. So I said to the Air Force at the time, I said, would you be interested in me? And they said, well, yes, we would. It'd be lovely, but you'll have to lose some of your seniority because we can't be seen to be poaching. Okay, fair enough. But they said, you can pick your job.
Swings and roundabouts.
When I've been in the Royal Navy, I've done about 3 or 4 rescue missions. The first one was actually in the mountains during that one where I went to the wrong landing site, but actually collected a casualty off a hill and then took them into hospital because the local police knew we were there. And I'd always thought, yeah, I quite fancy doing that for a job. So when they said, pick your job, I said, I'd love to do Wessex Search and Rescue.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, how about Lucas? They said. I said, well, I don't really know the place, but yeah, let's give it a go.